In the not-so-distant future, Earth was just another insignificant speck in the vastness of the universe. Humans had long since ventured beyond their home planet, exploring their own solar system and sending probes to distant stars. Yet, to the countless alien civilizations that dominated the galaxy, Earth was nothing more than a distant curiosity. To them, humanity was a peaceful but primitive species, not even worthy of a second glance. They had watched the rise of countless civilizations across the stars, advanced species that had mastered technology far beyond anything humans could imagine. Earth was just another quiet, undeveloped world in the far corner of space, always on the periphery of galactic attention. But something was changing. Deep within humanity, a spark was igniting. A rare unity began to form among the nations of Earth as they realized the time had come to show the universe their true potential. The leaders of the world's most advanced countries and the most brilliant minds across the planet came together, setting aside their differences for a common purpose. This shared vision was simple yet revolutionary: to create a ship capable of reaching the furthest corners of space, a symbol of humanity's untapped power. This was more than just another spacecraft. This would be humanity's statement to the galaxy that they were no longer content with being overlooked. The project quickly gained momentum, with scientists, engineers, and visionaries from every field contributing to the mission. They called it ArcLight, and it was to be the most powerful and advanced spacecraft ever conceived. Unlike anything the galaxy had seen before, ArcLight was to be powered by a newly discovered form of energy, an energy source that combined the best of human creativity, willpower, and technology. The possibilities were endless. The ship's design was as innovative as it was ambitious. It could travel farther and faster than any other ship, powered by a blend of science and sheer human determination. For the first time, Earth would have a tool that could reach the stars and beyond. As construction of the ArcLight progressed, so did the atmosphere on Earth. People who had once been divided by politics, culture, and history now found common ground in their shared purpose. Nations that once bickered over resources and power began collaborating in ways that had been unimaginable just a few years ago. The people of Earth had a singular goal: to prove themselves to the galaxy. And with every new breakthrough, every new piece of technology added to ArcLight, humanity felt the stirrings of something greater. When the day finally arrived for the ArcLight's first test flight, the entire world watched. In a vast, empty space above the Earth, the ship slowly came to life. Its engines hummed, and the energy systems powered up with an almost unnatural precision. Then, with a deep rumble, ArcLight lifted off the ground and soared into the skies, the first human-made vessel to reach beyond Earth's orbit with such power and grace. For a brief moment, everything seemed to pause. Time itself seemed to hold its breath. This was the moment when Earth would no longer be overlooked. This was the moment when humanity would show the universe what it was truly capable of. HFY was a success, but it wasn't just the technology that stood out. It was something far more profound. Humanity, once fractured and divided, had come together as one. As the ArcLight sped into the unknown, it carried not just advanced technology, but the hopes and dreams of an entire planet. And in that moment, the universe would begin to take notice. The people of Earth were no longer content with being silent observers. They were ready to make their mark. But this success was only the beginning. Little did they know that the galaxy, far from welcoming their newfound power, would soon regard Earth as a force to be reckoned with, a species that had just awakened to its true potential. The journey ahead would be dangerous, filled with challenges and unforeseen obstacles, but humanity's resolve was stronger than ever. For the first time, they were united not just by their planet, but by a shared vision of what they could achieve in the vast expanse of space. The ArcLight had set the stage for something much greater, something that would change the future of Earth and the galaxy forever. Part 2. The silent threat as the Arclight journeyed deeper into the cosmos, humanities. Reach expanded further than ever before. The ship's advanced technology allowed it to travel beyond the borders of known space, opening doors to countless new alien civilizations. The first few encounters were peaceful. Humans, with their newfound unity and technological marvel, exchanged knowledge and ideas with these alien species. Some shared their medical breakthroughs, others offered scientific insights, and some even showed humanity new ways to harness energy. It was a time of growth and excitement, as Earth began to form connections with distant worlds. But during one particular exchange, something shifted. An ancient race, known as the Zetorians, who had kept their distance from Earth until now, took notice of the Arclight and the advancements it represented. The Zetorians had been observing humanity for centuries, believing Earth to be just another primitive planet with no real potential. They had watched, unmoved, as humans sent probes to the stars, content to let them play in the vast emptiness of space. They had dismissed humanity as weak and divided, incapable of uniting for any great cause. To the Zetorians, Earth was no more than an insignificant speck among countless others. But now, with the rise of the Arclight and the unexpected unity of the human race, everything had changed. The ship's power, unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, sent ripples through the Zetorians' empire. Their once confident belief that no species could rise to challenge their authority began to falter. The Zetorians, rulers of several galaxies, had always maintained peace across the stars by quashing any species that showed signs of threatening their control. They had done so by subtly extinguishing the flame of any civilization that could one day stand against them. Earth had always been considered too fractured and weak to pose a risk. But now, as they watched humans unite under the banner of a single powerful ship, the Zetorians realized that the potential of humanity was something they could not ignore. The Zetorians' leaders convened in secret, their ancient minds calculating the danger humanity now posed. If Earth were allowed to grow stronger, they would soon have a species capable of challenging their dominance. They could no longer afford to wait and see if humanity would falter. The Zetorians began to move swiftly, gathering their forces, preparing their fleets, and readying their war machines. The plan was clear. Strike before Earth could harness the full extent of its power, before humanity's light became too bright to hide. In the silence of their hidden chambers, the Zetorians set the stage for their invasion. What they didn't realize, however, was the true strength of humanity. It wasn't just the Arclight that made Earth a force to be reckoned with. It was the people behind the ship, the minds and hearts of those who had come together to create it. The Zetorians had underestimated not just humanity's technological advances, but their ability to innovate, adapt, and most importantly, unite under pressure. While the Zetorians prepared their warships and weapons, humanity was busy strengthening the Arclight even further, enhancing its systems, upgrading its weapons, and preparing for a future that they did not know was about to be thrust upon them. Though the threat remained hidden, humanity sensed something was amiss. A growing tension filled the air as whispers of danger reached the ears of those in power. They did not know exactly who or what was watching them, but instinctively, they knew they were being tested. And in that moment, humanity's greatest asset became clear. They were not only resourceful, but they had learned, over time, to fight for each other, to protect one another, and to rise above whatever threats loomed on the horizon. As the Zetorians prepared to strike, they could never fully comprehend the determination and resilience of the human spirit. They had underestimated the one thing that no technology or weapon could ever destroy: human unity. The game had changed. What they had seen as an insignificant species was now beginning to show its teeth. The Arclight might be the ship that carried humanity into the stars, but it was the strength of the people that would decide their fate. What the Zetorians could not predict was that Earth would not simply bow to their might. They would rise to meet it, armed with not just advanced technology, but a united will that no enemy, no matter how ancient, could easily crush. The stage was set, and the universe would soon learn the cost of underestimating Earth. Back on Earth, whispers of an impending invasion began to spread like wildfire. The Zetorians, an ancient and powerful empire, were moving towards the planet. For years, humans had lived in the shadow of alien civilizations, always seen as insignificant, always dismissed. Now, for the first time, they knew they were about to face a threat unlike anything they had ever imagined. Fear spread quickly, but instead of the panic that might have torn humanity apart, something remarkable happened. In a way never seen before, the human race came together. Governments, corporations, and independent groups, previously divided by politics and history, united their resources, realizing that this was not a time for division. The survival of their species depended on working together, combining their strength, intellect, and willpower to protect their home. The Arclight, already a symbol of human achievement, became the focal point of Earth's collective effort. The ship, with its advanced technology and new form of energy, was the key to humanity's defense. But the world's leaders knew it wasn't enough to just rely on the ship's current capabilities. They called upon the world's brightest minds, scientists, and engineers, all of whom poured their efforts into making the Arclight an unstoppable force. The ship was reinforced with state-of-the-art weapon systems, energy shields that could withstand the fiercest attacks, and biological countermeasures that humans had only begun to understand. They even developed new technologies to enhance the crew's ability to operate under extreme conditions, ensuring they were prepared for a battle that could determine the fate of Earth. As the final upgrades to the Arclight were completed, the world held its breath. The Zetorians were on their way. Their fleet, vast and terrifying, moved silently through space, poised to strike before Earth could fully defend itself. The Zetorians had underestimated humanity's unity and resolve, assuming that the Arclight was just another ship. A weapon, perhaps, but nothing that could stand against their power. They were wrong. When the Zetorian fleet finally arrived at Earth's borders, they were shocked by what they found. The human race, once divided and uncertain, was now a single, formidable force. The Arclight, now fully equipped and upgraded, was not just a ship, it was the embodiment of Earth's defiance. The Zetorians, who had expected a quick and easy victory, were now facing something they had never anticipated. A species that would fight for its survival with everything it had. A fierce battle erupted in Earth's orbit as the Arclight led the charge. The Zetorians, used to overwhelming their enemies with sheer force, were unprepared for humanity's ingenuity and determination. The Arclight, equipped with its newly enhanced weapons systems, struck back with surprising power, throwing the Zetorians into disarray. What was meant to be a swift invasion turned into a prolonged battle, and the tides began to shift. The Arclight's advanced energy shields held strong against the Zetorian onslaught, while the ship's weapons cut through their fleet with precision. Each move made by the humans was calculated, adaptive, and fiercely determined, proving that humanity was not a race to be underestimated. As the battle raged, the Arclight's crew, composed of Earth's finest minds, demonstrated an unexpected brilliance in their tactics. Every time the Zetorians tried to adapt, the humans did so faster, finding new ways to outmaneuver their enemies. The Arclight was more than just a ship. It was the heart of Earth's resistance, a symbol of what could be achieved when humans worked together, leaving no room for fear or doubt. As the fight continued, it became clear that the Zetorians had made a grave miscalculation. They had believed that Earth would fold under the pressure, that humans were weak and unprepared. But the Zetorians had underestimated the power of unity, the resilience of humanity's spirit, and the surprising strength of a species willing to fight for its future. Against all odds, the tide of the battle began to turn in Earth's favor. The Arclight, with its crew united in purpose and resolve, had proven that it was not just a symbol of humanity's technological leap, it was a weapon forged from the unyielding will of a species determined to survive. The Zetorians, now facing mounting losses and an enemy they could not easily defeat, were forced to reconsider their plans. The humans had awakened something within themselves, a power that no empire, no matter how vast, could easily crush. The battle for Earth was far from over, but humanity's might had already been made clear. The Arclight had become more than just a ship. It had become a beacon of hope, a signal to the universe that Earth was no longer a world to be ignored. The Zetorians had come to conquer, but they were about to learn that the fight for Earth would not be as easy as they had thought. The Zetorians, with their advanced technology and overwhelming numbers, had long ruled over countless galaxies with an iron fist. Their empire stretched across the stars, and their fleet, unrivaled in its power, had crushed any who dared to challenge them. When they set their sights on Earth, they believed it would be no different. They had expected the human race to crumble beneath their might, as so many other civilizations had done before. But what they didn't expect was the unrelenting human spirit, a force that defied the cold calculations of their superior technology. The battle in space raged on, and it quickly became clear that humanity was no longer the underdog. The Arclight, guided by its skilled and determined human crew, stood at the center of the storm. Though the Zetorians' ships were far more advanced, the Arclight's crew was relentless. They adapted quickly to every new tactic the Zetorians threw at them, finding weaknesses where the enemy thought there were none. Conventional warfare didn't work against humans, and the Zetorians soon realized that their tactics, no matter how advanced, couldn't predict the ingenuity of their opponents. Humanity's strength wasn't in their weapons alone, but in their minds, their ability to think outside the box, to innovate, and to turn the tide when everything seemed lost. Every move humanity made was unexpected. The Arclight's weapons were used in ways the Zetorians couldn't have predicted, employing unconventional strategies that baffled their enemies. Human fighters would weave through enemy lines with near-impossible precision, using the stars themselves as cover. While the Zetorians relied on brute force and overwhelming firepower, the humans struck at their weak points with surgical precision, cutting down the larger fleet ship by ship. It wasn't just the Arclight that fought for Earth now. Humanity's ingenuity and adaptability spread across their fleet, a growing army of ships built by the ingenuity of every nation and every mind that had contributed to the Arclight's success. The Zetorians, for the first time, faltered. Their superior firepower, which had always been enough to crush lesser civilizations, was no longer the deciding factor. The more they fought, the more they struggled to match the humans' creative and relentless approach to combat. Every time they tried to adapt to humanity's new tactics, the humans found a way to stay one step ahead. The once proud Zetorian fleet, the pride of an empire that spanned galaxies, began to crumble. They had underestimated Earth's most powerful weapon, not the Arclight itself, but the people who commanded it, the people who had learned to work together as one, united by the same purpose. The turning point came when the Arclight targeted the heart of the Zetorian fleet, their flagship. The Arclight had been upgraded and strengthened, and its new weapons systems were unlike anything the Zetorians had encountered. At that critical moment, as the Arclight closed in on the flagship, the human crew put their final plan into action. They unleashed a devastating wave of firepower, an attack that hit with such precision that the Zetorian flagship couldn't withstand it. The explosion lit up space, and the Zetorians, stunned by the loss of their pride and joy, were thrown into chaos. The loss of the flagship was a devastating blow to the Zetorian fleet. In that moment, the tide of the battle turned. For the first time, the Zetorians were on the back foot. They had underestimated humanity's ability to innovate, to adapt, and to fight with a resolve that no weapon or ship could defeat. With Their flagship destroyed and their fleet faltering, the Zetorians were forced to make a difficult decision. Retreat was their only option. As the Zetorian forces retreated into the dark expanse of space, a sense of awe and disbelief swept through. The galaxy, the humans, once seen as insignificant and primitive, had achieved the impossible. The Zetorians, who had thought their victory was certain, now found themselves defeated. The galaxy, long accustomed to the Zetorian rule, was now faced with a new reality. Earth was no longer a planet to be overlooked. Humanity had proven itself to be a force to be reckoned with, and the universe would never view them the same way again. As the Arclight sailed victorious, its crew looked out at the stars, knowing that this was only the beginning. The Zetorians had learned a harsh lesson, and humanity had shown that when united, no enemy, no matter how powerful, could ever truly defeat them. The battle for Earth had been won, but the battle for the cosmos had just begun. The victory over the Zetorians sent ripples through the galaxy that were felt by even the most powerful civilizations. Earth, once a quiet, insignificant speck in the vastness of space, was now a force to be reckoned with. The mighty Zetorian Empire, which had once believed in its absolute superiority, had been humbled, and in the wake of their defeat, something incredible happened. Humanity had earned the respect of the galaxy. Where once they were dismissed as weak and unworthy of attention, they were now recognized for their strength, their resolve, and their unexpected ability to stand against even the most powerful empires. Earth was no longer a mere observer of the cosmos. It was a rising power, a new player in the intergalactic stage. The Arclight stood at the center of this transformation. No longer just a symbol of human achievement, the ship had become a testament to what humanity could accomplish when united. It had led the charge in defeating the Zetorians, but it had also proven to the galaxy that humans were not to be underestimated. As the Arclight drifted through space, its hull gleaming with the legacy of humanity's first great victory, it became a symbol of creativity, resilience, and the unyielding spirit of a species that had fought for its future and won. In the aftermath of the battle, Earth began to rebuild not just its own defenses, but also its relationships with the alien civilizations it had once feared. The human race, which had been isolated for so long, now had the opportunity to create alliances, share knowledge, and engage in trade with species that had once viewed them as primitive. The galaxy was no longer an untouchable and distant place. It was a place of possibility. Earth's diplomatic envoys were welcomed into meetings with long-established powers, who now saw them not as the underdog, but as a partner. The Arclight and the victory it represented had changed everything. What was once considered an impossible dream was now within reach. Humanity had a place among the stars. For the first time, the human race looked to the future with optimism. No longer did they fear being overwhelmed by more powerful civilizations. They now had the ability to stand tall beside them. The lessons learned from the battle, the unity forged through adversity, had strengthened humanity in ways no one could have predicted. Now they were determined to prove that they could not only defend their home, but could also contribute to the betterment of the galaxy. They were ready to take their place, to ensure that Earth's voice would be heard alongside the oldest and most influential species in the universe. Humanity was entering a new era, one where their ingenuity and their spirit would guide them through the stars. With the Arclight at the forefront, Earth began to explore distant worlds, seeking to build peaceful relationships with other civilizations, and to expand its knowledge of the universe. But unlike before, humanity no longer approached the cosmos with fear or hesitation. Instead, they moved forward with confidence, driven by the lessons of their past and the promise of a brighter future. For the first time in history, Earth was truly united. The divisions that once plagued them, whether political, social, or economic, had been swept away by a shared cause. The struggle for survival against the Zatorians had forged a bond between all of humanity, and now, as they ventured out into the stars, that unity would serve as their foundation. They were no longer divided by borders or ideologies. The human race had learned that their true strength came from their ability to come together, to fight together, and to build a future together. The universe, once vast and uncaring, had opened its doors to Earth. Now, humanity had a seat at the table. They had proven that they could rise above their circumstances, that they were capable of achieving greatness. The Arclight, a symbol of humanity's journey from underdog to galactic power, would continue to lead them on their path forward. With each new alliance they forged, with each new world they explored, they would remind the galaxy of one simple truth. Earth was no longer the forgotten planet at the edge of the cosmos. It was a new force in the universe, and it was here to stay. The galaxy was vast, yes, but now Earth had its place among the stars, and no one would ever forget the price that was paid to earn it.